The night felt heavier than usual, thick with silence and secrets. The ranch lay quiet under the pale glow of the moon, but her heart was racing as if the whole world were watching. She clutched his arm, her fingers trembling, and leaned close enough that he could feel her breath. "Don't. Someone might see," she whispered, her voice barely louder than the wind moving through the grass. In a town like this, nothing stayed hidden for long. One glance, one rumor, and a life could be torn apart. He followed her nervous gaze toward the fence line, where shadows stretched and shifted. Every dark corner felt alive, as if the night itself were listening. He knew what she feared. The town loved its rules, its judgments, and its quiet punishments for those who dared to step out of line. Loving her openly meant inviting trouble, gossip, and condemnation. Yet when he looked back at her, saw the fear mixed with longing in her eyes, something inside him hardened with resolve. "I'm not pulling away," he said softly. "Not tonight." Her breath caught. She wanted to argue, to beg him to be careful, but her words failed her. For weeks they had lived in stolen moments and careful distance, pretending their feelings were nothing more than coincidence. But pretending had grown exhausting. The way he looked at her now made hiding feel impossible. Suddenly a sharp snap echoed from behind the trees. She flinched, stepping back as her heart slammed against her ribs. For a brief second, she was certain she saw someone move, a figure retreating into the darkness. Quick and silent, fear rushed through her like cold water. Someone had been there. Someone had seen. "This is bad," she whispered, panic creeping into her voice. "If anyone finds out..." He didn't let her finish. He reached for her hand, grounding her, steady and calm despite the tension in the air. "Whatever happens," he said, "we'll face it." The words should have comforted her, but they only made the danger feel more real. She pulled her hand free, torn between wanting to stay and needing to run. The night no longer felt like a safe place to hide. It felt like a witness. As she walked away, glancing over her shoulder one last time, she knew something had shifted. The secret they'd protected so carefully was already slipping beyond their control. By morning, whispers would begin, and once they did, there would be no turning back. Morning arrived without mercy. The sun rose the same way it always did, warm and golden, as if nothing had happened the night before. But the town felt different. She sensed it the moment she stepped outside. The air was heavy with knowing looks, half-finished conversations, and voices that dropped the second she walked past. It didn't take long to understand why. The secret had escaped the darkness and found its way into daylight. At the cafe, cups paused halfway to lips. A woman at the counter leaned in too close to her friend, whispering urgently. When she met their eyes, they looked away. Her hands shook as she wrapped them around her coffee, the heat doing nothing to steady her nerves. Someone new, maybe more than one person. In a town like this, a single glance could multiply into 100 stories before noon. By the time she reached the main street, the rumors were no longer subtle. She heard fragments as she passed, her name spoken softly, his spoken with disbelief. Each word felt like a small cut. Fear pressed down on her chest, and all she wanted was for him to deny it, to laugh it off, to say they had misunderstood what they saw. One lie could still save her. She found him near the feed store, calm as ever, speaking with a few townspeople who clearly weren't there to buy anything. When he saw her, his expression softened, but she could see the tension in his jaw. She pulled him aside, her voice urgent and low. "Please," she said, eyes shining with unshed tears. "Just tell them it's not true. Say it was nothing." He listened, really listened, and for a moment she thought he might agree. But then he straightened, turning back toward the small group that had gathered. Silence spread quickly, like everyone had been waiting for this exact moment. "Yes," he said clearly. "I care about her." The words landed hard. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Someone muttered a curse under their breath. She felt exposed, as if the ground beneath her feet had vanished. Yet at the same time, something unexpected happened. He didn't move away. He stayed right there, solid and unwavering, choosing truth when it would have been easier to hide. People began talking all at once, accusations and judgments colliding in the open air, but she could barely hear them. All she felt was his presence beside her, steady and sure. Fear still lived in her chest, but it was no longer alone. He had made his choice openly and without regret, and whether the town approved or not, nothing would ever be the same again. As the murmurs of the crowd swirled around them, she gripped his hand tightly, her heart racing. Every eye in the town seemed to pierce right through them. every whispered word a knife aimed at their secret. By the third day, the town no longer whispered. It spoke loudly, boldly, and without shame. Rumors moved faster than the wind, twisting the truth into something unrecognizable. Each version grew sharper, more cruel than the last. Some said she had planned it, that she had tempted him on purpose. Others claimed he had lost his mind, that love had made him reckless and weak. No one asked them what was real. Judgment didn't need facts to survive. She felt it everywhere she went. Doors that once opened easily now closed a little too quickly. Friendly faces turned distant, cautious, as if her presence alone carried danger. Even silence felt heavy, filled with thoughts people no longer bothered to hide. At night, she lay awake replaying every word, every look, wondering if loving him had been a mistake that would cost them both everything. He felt the pressure too, though he rarely spoke about it. Old friends stopped visiting the ranch. Business deals grew cold. A man he had known since childhood refused to meet his eyes. The town had decided that choosing love meant choosing sides, and there was no neutral ground left. Still, every evening, he returned to her with the same quiet determination, as if nothing outside their world truly mattered. "Let them talk," he told her one night as they sat on the porch, headlights passing on the road like curious eyes. "They can't change what's already true." She wanted to believe him, but fear clung tightly. Love, she realized, wasn't just warmth and comfort. It was risk. It was standing still while others tried to tear you apart with words. It was watching your life become a public story, told by people who had never known your heart. The town divided itself without ever asking permission. Some nodded in quiet support when no one was watching. Others grew louder, fueled by outrage and righteousness. Rumors became entertainment, something to trade in the evenings when there was nothing else to do. The scandal filled the space. The town seemed desperate to keep alive. Every day brought new whispers, new stares, and new challenges. She felt the weight of the town's eyes on her, their judgments pressing down like an invisible force. Yet every time she looked at him, the fear eased just a little. Standing beside him, she realized that the world outside might never understand them, but within the quiet moments they shared, their love grew stronger, unshaken by the gossip swirling endlessly around them. Standing beside him, she finally understood the cost of what he had done. He hadn't just chosen her. He had chosen to be seen, judged, and challenged. And in doing so, he had given her a strange kind of strength. The town might be tearing them apart with rumors, but every day they endured together proved something undeniable. Love, once chosen, demanded courage, and they were learning how to carry it. Time did what anger and gossip never could. It grew tired. The town that once buzzed with rumors slowly found new stories to feed on, new mistakes to judge, new lives to dissect. The sharp stares softened first, then the whispers faded into background noise. They never fully disappeared, but they lost their power. She noticed it in small ways. A cashier who finally met her eyes, a neighbor who didn't turn away, a quiet nod where there had once been cold silence. For a long time, she had carried herself as if expecting a blow, shoulders tight, steps careful. Now, without realizing it, she began to walk differently. Her head lifted. Her breath came easier. She had spent weeks afraid that loving him would erase her place in the world. But instead, it had reshaped her. She was no longer living in apology. He watched the change with quiet pride. The ranch had always been his refuge, wide and open, untouched by judgment. Out there among the fields and open sky, they were simply two people choosing each other every day. The town might still talk, but it no longer decided how they felt when the sun rose or when night fell. One afternoon, as the light stretched long and golden across the land, she stopped beside him and took his hand. It felt different this time, not urgent, not fearful, just certain. She remembered how it had begun, with a whispered warning and a heart full of doubt. The memory felt distant now, like a story she had once lived but no longer belonged to. "I'm not hiding anymore," she said softly. He smiled, the same calm smile he had worn the night everything changed. There was no triumph in it, no need to prove anything. Love had already done its work. It had stripped away fear, leaving behind something steady and unshakable. The town hadn't fully forgiven them, and maybe it never would. Some wounds healed slowly, others left faint scars. But forgiveness, she realized, was never the goal. Peace was, and standing there, hand in hand, she felt it settle over her like the evening air. They hadn't silenced the town. They hadn't rewritten its rules. They had simply chosen not to live by them. And in the end, that choice mattered more than any rumor ever could. As the golden sun bathed the ranch in warm light, they stood close, bodies almost touching, hearts racing from the tension and desire that had built over weeks. She leaned into him, feeling the strength in his arms, the heat of his presence igniting every nerve. No whispers, no judgment, no town could touch this moment. They were completely theirs. With a slow, lingering kiss, the world faded, leaving only the raw, unshakable passion and the undeniable truth. They had chosen each other, fully, fiercely, and without apology.